What would you do if the ordinary act of fixing a tooth unraveled a plot of murder, deceit, and a burned corpse in a garage? This story isn't just about dentistry. It's about lies, betrayal, and a chilling mystery that you'll never forget. Buckle up as we dive into one of Dorothy Sayers' most intricate tales. Ah, my dear friend, what brings you in today? Asked Mr. Lampo, a dentist with an uncanny knack for soothing his patients. Just one of your whiz-bang miracles, I suppose, replied Lord Peter Wimsey, clearly irritated as he sat down in the dentist's green velvet chair. Jolly old molar cracked while eating an omelet, of all things. The two exchanged friendly banter while Mr. Lampo prepared his tools. They were old acquaintances, and it wasn't long before Mr. Lampo brought up a peculiar encounter that morning. Odd thing happened, he began. The police showed up asking about the patient records left behind by my predecessor. Seems there's been a nasty case. A dentist was found dead in a burning garage last night. Wimsey, always intrigued by crime, leaned forward. Burning garage? A body? Tell me more. As Mr. Lampo worked on his tooth, he explained that a man named Mr. Prast had apparently died in a fiery accident involving his car. The police couldn't identify the body from the remains, so they turned to his dental records. They think it might have been suicide, Lampo said, though Wimsey's curiosity was immediately piqued. He had a hunch there was more to the story. Perfect timing, Wimsey said as Mr. Lampo finished the dental work. I'll drive you to Wimbledon. You're looking at the newest assistant to the investigation. The mystery unfolds. The scene was as grim as expected. In a charred garage stood the remains of a car, and within it, the unrecognizable remains of a man. The only clue tying the body to Mr. Prast was his teeth. Mr. Lampo carefully compared the corpse's dental records with Mr. Prast's history. But things weren't adding up. One tooth, identified as a right upper incisor crown, was missing from the body. Odd, Mr. Lampo said. The crown shouldn't have come loose so easily, even in a fire. Wimsey's instincts buzzed. Could this mean the body isn't Prast? Further investigation revealed Mr. Prast had been struggling. His dental practice wasn't doing well, and his marriage was strained. His wife, Mrs. Prast, was openly critical of his choices, from his small car to his work habits. There was also talk of an affair with a rich widow named Mrs. Fielding. But despite the chaos in his personal life, Mrs. Prast insisted he wouldn't have taken his own life. After all, he had just taken out a $500 insurance policy. A twist in the case. One night before his death, Mr. Prast had treated a patient named Mr. Williams, a visitor from Australia. Oddly, after the fire, Mr. Williams disappeared, leaving no forwarding address. The mystery deepened when a syringe containing a trace of poison was discovered near the wreckage. Suicide seemed plausible, but Wimsey wasn't convinced. Something's off, Wimsey mused. What if this wasn't an accident, or even a suicide? Further examination of the dental work provided the break they needed. Mr. Lampo discovered several fillings that were far too new to match Mr. Prast's medical records. This filling isn't even 6 months old, he exclaimed. Prast's teeth should have much older work. Wimsey smiled. So the body isn't Mr. Prast. But where is he? The shocking truth. It all unraveled when Wimsey connected the dots. Mr. Prast had meticulously planned to fake his death. He had found a patient, Mr. Williams, who was close to his height and build, drugged him, and burned his body to pass it off as his own. Prast even altered Williams' teeth to match his own dental records, assuming no one would notice the differences. The goal? Escape his failing practice, cash in on the insurance, and start a new life with Mrs. Fielding in France. But his plan fell apart under the scrutiny of Whimsy and Lampeau. The police eventually found Prast hiding in Rouen, France, living comfortably on his ill-gotten gains. Mrs. Fielding was arrested for conspiracy, and Prast faced charges for murder, fraud, and arson. Epilogue. As the dust settled, Whimsy reflected on the case. It's fascinating, really. The whole scheme fell apart because of a single filling. Imagine going through all that trouble, only to be caught by a detail as small as a tooth.